Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank God the draft's almost over. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Say, thank God the draft's coming up off of yesterday's result.
No, I'm not freaking out. Are you freaking out?
No, I thought that because that was your Ted voice. That Ted was going,
Hi, everyone.
Pay attention to the draft this week, everyone.
Friday night, don't worry about the draft. I know you have 5 picks, but don't worry about it.
Thank goodness, by the way, this always lines up. For some reason, the Caps always play on the night of round 1 every year they make the playoffs. I was very pleasantly surprised that there wasn't a Caps-Rangers game on Thursday. So
that's right.
Very happy to sit back and watch the draft.
Right, because everybody be tuned into number 2 because there's somehow intrigue.
They probably
I'm shocked that we still have intrigue in this, but we do.
Most likely, I bet you if that was the case, the Caps wouldn't have puck dropped until like 8:20.
Maybe. Well, or the NHL would time it up right as the draft starts because they're idiots.
You're right, actually. Wait, what am I thinking?
Yeah.
7:30 puck drop, everyone.
Okay, here's a Ted question that we'll never know the answer to. If they were playing Thursday night, which was easily could have happened because they're playing Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Would they have shown the selection of the Commanders in the stadium?
No, of course not. Absolutely not.
But I thought we're all buddies now, and everybody's like
buddies
tweeting
with that
out.
franchise?
Why?
He's never been buddies with that franchise.
John Allen showed up once. Remember that?
Yeah.
I saw the Commanders sent out a tweet with McLaurin and Ovechkin together, like a good luck.
Yeah, he was at the game, I think, like 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah. No, the social media people always play nice, but Ted, when it comes to directly dealing with that franchise, doesn't deal with it.
You know what? I'll just keep my comments to myself about that.
Okay.
Because I know a little more and I know you're right.
Sure.
And I just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. No, I actually, no, I'll talk about it.
Actually ridiculous, but you know how I feel about this. Like, we're all one big family here, guys. Like,
I actually thought there would be more of an olive branch once Josh Harris got control, and I don't think that's really happened yet. Now, maybe it happens, but. Yeah,
I want RFK. Muriel, now that we're friends down at the old Trump Hotel, now that we meet for drinks all the time.
They didn't meet at the Trump
Hotel. And I've created women's sports.
You guys get it right. It wasn't the Trump Hotel.
Oh, the Waldorf, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now that we meet at the Waldorf. That's not the old Trump Hotel? It might be.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
I'm not sure. That thing changed.
That's true. You're right, actually.
It might be.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I'll have to look it up, maybe.
No, but I thought there'd be
the
more.
Waldorf people are like, no, we're not.
Yes, right.
No. Marge isn't invited here, buddy. Muriel, not Marge. Get it right.
No supplies being hidden in bushes outside of that one.
No. We have no classified documents here, guy. Okay? None.
No, what I was going to say is I thought when Harris got control, there'd be an olive branch or two.
That may be coming.
Doesn't feel, that's what I'm saying. I think maybe it's coming.
Maybe when all the stadium stuff shakes out and everybody has their homes.
Right.
And we can all just be buddies
everyone's
again.
Settled in.
Yeah.
Because I remember Harris when Monumental got the deal, and I forget who he was asked by about it when he was asked again about, that's when we're in deep talks with Maryland. That's when those comments came out. Yeah. But he was like, congrats to them. He laid out a quick, congrats to them for getting that deal done.
Ted doesn't like Magic. Magic doesn't like Ted. What's up with that?
I mean, Ted could use a little magic, in his front office probably. I mean,
he could.
That guy knows how to find talent, so
he does.
Or likes winning. So
we'll see. Winger's like, shut up.
Yeah,
you'll see. Just shut your face. We're just in stage 1. There's 58 stages, but we're in stage 1 of it.
Didn't have anyone getting emotional about Jordan Poole to start the offseason, but here we are.
Well, here we are. And you know what? It was actually worthwhile a little bit because he came around and he became a basketball player again. Right. And it was nice to see right before your eyes. 15-win team. Okay. I don't hold grudges. I'm going to talk about the Caps to start today.
Oh, okay.
I'll get into Jayden later.
All right.
Okay, because I think the dust settled on all of that. And we're back to, honestly, I think we're picking him.
Sure.
And it seems that their people have come to terms with that. So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
They
also,
cleared up we didn't hate Topgolf that much.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I knew
Topgolf is not World War III when it comes to the draft.
When we talked about it on Friday, I said, we're going to hear from him in some way, shape, or form by Sunday night. And it was literally with Ochocinco and Sharp that it was like,
It wasn't
fine.
even. I was surprised they didn't hit him harder on that. Like,
no, because his agent probably said, "Hey, I'm going to give you guys Jayden,
but don't
soften
hit
the
top
blow."
golf.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he was just talking about how they have, good receivers.
They have dogs, is what he said.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
that was a
it.
nothing burger.
Right, but Chad,
I would have liked for them to be like, "Can you clear up? Are you that upset about going to Top Golf? Really?
Right.
Like, are you, or was your agent maybe saying something that he probably shouldn't have
his
said?
agent probably is the one that got him
Yes.
gave him that interview. So
Yeah.
probably was like, "Hey, be kind to Washington there."
There was nothing. I saw the clips.
Yeah,
There was
it was
nothing in
nothing.
that
Yeah,
interview.
it was nothing.
Literally, there was nothing.
Yes,
Other than to say, I'm playing nice with the NFL,
correct.
which is the smart move at this
Yes,
point.
exactly. Anyways.
Okay, let's get back to the Capitals, who lost yesterday 4-1.
Yep.
They decided they were going to go with their game plan of low event hockey.
Mm-hmm.
That worked for the first period, but it also turned into Virginia basketball. They had really very few opportunities to score.
Yep.
So once we got to 0-0 after one, it was, okay, win.
Yep. Correct.
Because clearly we're playing what we want to play. They've had almost no real chances, and we get to the second period. And in the second period, it was a bad 3 minutes, basically.
Yep.
A bad 3 minutes where they scored a goal and then all of a sudden scored two more very, very, very quickly.
2:16 was the exact timing.
And the latter two, both of them easily could not have counted because of penalties that I think should have been called.
That's right.
And I don't normally complain openly too much about this, even though I thought the third goal, which is the second in that succession, was an obvious call that was clearly missed. But I am going to complain because the first period, the referees were calling penalties left and right, quick, almost as if they'd got some kind of memo that they needed these teams to be in control to start, which I don't know why. It wasn't like there was some weird carryover of anything. They hadn't played each other in 4 months. There was no weird hype of, oh, this is going to get ugly.
Yeah.
I never heard of anything like that. And if you actually ended up watching the first period, they kind of, both sides, didn't do anything that was chippy or weird that would have like lent to this idea that we need to get control of this quickly. But they handed out, 5 power plays and a 4-on-4 in the first period. And while none of the calls were bad, they were quick whistles.
Correct. Yes.
Quick whistles.
Yeah.
Just like, a couple of holds that, under a lot of circumstances would just be let go. It's not like it prohibited a team from a decent scoring chance. It was just unusual calls, I thought, early.
Yes.
Which is why when we got to the second period and they let more egregious things go, I was surprised.
Yeah.
So I think the referees played a humongous role in the outcome yesterday. And that's unfortunate because the way they called the first and the way they called the second were two different games. And that's where I think the Capitals have a genuine complaint. It'd be one thing if they just weren't calling anything and they just let everything go. But they were calling everything in the first period and then let two. One is mildly controversial, and the second one was an obvious penalty. And once it got to 3-0, they're done.
Yeah, correct.
They're done.
I mean, it should have essentially been 1-1 is what the score should have settled out to.
I'll settle for 2-1 Rangers.
Okay, man.
I think the third one, because the second one, all right, so the first one, no complaints. They scored 1-0.
Yep.
The second one involved a big hit on Iorio, but in slow-mo looks bad. And in real time, kind of looks like the one that took out Jensen, which was really a hockey play. It's a hockey play.
Spencer Carver even said that afterwards.
Yes, I agreed with that because like in slow-mo, it's like he boarded him, and it looked a little dirty. And then if you watch it in real time, I think Iorio just put himself in a bad position.
That's what Spencer said. He even said he
I
needed
agree.
to get rid of the puck faster. Yeah.
So could they have called a penalty there? In lieu of what happened in the first period, I think yes, because they had called so many things. But I'm okay with kind of letting this go. It looked bad, but it was a hockey play. It wasn't a bad one. The third goal should never have counted.
Yep.
It was off a set play, off a face-off, and I can't remember. I think it was Remke who did it. He elbowed, who was it? Somebody in the face.
Yeah, I forget who it was, too. I
I think it was Malenstein.
Yeah.
Someone like that. Off of the face-off to give space to the player if they won the face-off for an open shot. That's a penalty.
Right. Correct.
At 2-0 there, I'm not asking the referees to play favorites here, but at 2-0 there, when that happens, that's an egregious missed call that flips the game upside down and doesn't give the Capitals much of a chance. So I think both could have been called. I'll live with the first one not being called. The second one at 2-0 should have been called. And would they have come back and won anyway? I don't know. They only scored one goal, so they wouldn't, all things being equal, they wouldn't have. But the game is flipped upside down at 3-0. That's a bad missed call. And so I think the referees inserted themselves in this game in an unusual and not consistent manner. And I think the Capitals have a genuine complaint to go back to the league and say, watch this. Look at what they were calling early, both ways, not just against them, but both ways. And then look at the second period where they swallowed the whistles, almost as if both coaches went to them in the first intermission and were like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're every other minute's a power play, and none of these calls are egregious. Like, two of the holds were just normal, run-of-the-mill, plays along the boards. There was no scoring chance that was interrupted, but they called it. And sure, by the letter of the law, they're penalties, but in the playoffs, I just expect them to let them play a little bit more than they did. Now, that said, the Caps had 3 power plays in the first period.
That's what I was going to get to.
And they didn't score on them.
That's right.
They actually got very few real opportunities, and so that's on them. They were gifted opportunities on marginal calls, and they didn't take advantage of it, and that also is the game to me, too.
Not only that, Rempe took one, and if you know anything about Rempe, he's this kind of newer sensation with the Rangers. He's kind of a punk, kind of gets under your skin, but has a little bit of a scoring touch considering he scored the first goal yesterday. Don't fall for his BS, but what they did is they called the first penalty on him. They got a penalty 2 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
I said to you on Friday, they had to cash in on the 1 or 2 power plays they were going to get. They got 3 or 4. I forget what the final count was by the end of the game.
They had 3 in the first period. And they should have had a 4th. They ended up in a 4-on-4 because of a retaliation.
Correct. And so that's what I was going to get to, too. Officiating aside, I don't ever like getting wrapped up into it. I agree with you. Like, yes, one of those or both of those goals could have been called back. But I like looking at everything else because, honestly, it's the NHL. You don't know who you're going to get game to game. One, they fell for Rempe's BS because then they started going at him in the second and third, and started to try to fight him. And he was smart enough to go, I'm not giving you any momentum. I'm not even going to let you guys bother with this. I'm just going to keep chirping at you and see what happens. So then all of a sudden their focus was on him. And then there was no push in the third. I mean, that's what I was actually most discouraged by all of this. Yes, I get it. You are playing this defensive style of hockey and you've lived and died with it, but it's 3-1 and you don't have a shot halfway through the third period? Right. I mean... Well,
they only had 2 about 10 to 11 minutes in, and they had 2 power plays by this point. So that's a little on you guys.
Correct.
Like I said this on Friday, I'm like, the only real chance, because I hadn't seen a lot of it, they're playing this low-event hockey. They're not taking a lot of chances. They're not generating any calls. They're getting no power plays. That's what was happening at the end of the season, and they were hanging in and they were winning the games anyway. But I'm like, no, like we have too hard of a time scoring 5-on-5 now. The only real chance we have is we got to generate some calls, and they got to cash in on the power play. Well, they got some gifts in the first period. They didn't cash in on them. So I don't blame the refs entirely. That's on you.
Correct.
3 power plays, and it's 0-0 after 1. That's a little on you.
Right. And they were every single category. The Rangers outbested them. They had more shots. They had more hits. I think the Caps took more penalties by the end, too, especially because in the third period things went a little haywire. And I think that was it, though. But either way, the Rangers took care of you in every single it was face-offs, too. The Rangers killed you in face-offs. I think they were like 55% on the day. So not terrible, but still. What I'm getting at is the Rangers beat you in every single category, and the score was 4-1. And I didn't see anything that was encouraging. Like this happens in the playoffs sometimes, too, where it could be 4-1. Then you start playing really well in the third period. Sometimes that carries over into the next game. I saw nothing from them. No final push. And then the one time they took a risk, Kreider takes it the other way and just buries it. And I don't blame anyone on that, but you should have started doing that a little bit earlier, knowing what your score was. I
agree. Right. Their problem is, and we've seen this, like they get outskated, especially on the back end when they have their older players. Like I love what Carlson's doing, but like he can't keep up with these faster players anymore. And a good stretch pass turns into a breakaway, and there's nothing Lindgren can do about it.
Right.
But the game is over at that point anyway, because if they're down 2-3 goals, the chances of them, unlike years past, coming back is very slim.
Of course. Yeah.
So they have to play this tightrope style, which is muck it up, don't give them a lot of chances, see if we can get a lead. But they didn't when they had all these power plays. I thought Lindgren played fine.
Yeah.
Like, I know he gave up 3 goals in a short period of time. None of them were bad.
That's right.
Like they were all, and the third one really shouldn't have counted. And then he gave up a breakaway. What are you going to do? He gave up a breakaway to a good player, whatever. So I actually thought he was fine. A couple of players that really stood out to me that I was pleased about. You had reminded me that this was Dylan Strome's first playoff game. He's been around a while.
Yep.
He's been at times this year their best player, most reliable player. He's very patient with the puck. Like he was terrific. Yep. Like the moment wasn't too big for him. Even when they were down, he was extremely patient. Seemed to be a playmaker for them. Got a couple good opportunities. Shesterkin's tough to beat, so like that's another.
They didn't
problem.
really test him either.
They didn't.
So when they did,
they didn't.
He saw it every step of the way.
Yes. I think Lapierre's a spark plug for them. Not a finisher, unfortunately, but he's like the one speed player
he's
that
the one
they
that
have.
matches. Yeah, he can match them. Yep.
Yes. So in both of those cases, I was pretty happy. Ovechkin got no real opportunities. On the power plays, he took a couple of shots, but from the point, which is that's a little outside of the office, actually. And those are low percentage from where those are. So I don't know how he ended up there, but that's not his scoring zone.
Yep.
And he ended up with no shots on goal, and that's not a recipe for winning because they need him to come through for them. He's the all-time finisher, and the only opportunities he got were outside of the comfort zone and are low percent, even for him, low percentage shots.
Yep.
So that wasn't very good that happened. And again, like you saw this in the third period, when they did try to open it up a little bit, they got burned for it because they can be beat with speed. And that's why they want this low event hockey stuff. But it does feel a little Virginia basketball. Like you're playing on a high wire. The game is only going to be 0-0 for so long, and you have one bad little stretch or one bad break or one missed call, and you're down 2-0. That hole is deep for a team like this. But I'm not discouraged. Like, I don't think they played poorly. I think they had a bad stretch. I think the referees did them no favors in the second period. And we turn around and play them tomorrow night, and they go up there and get in another low-event game and somehow win 2-1. Then all's well that ends well. This is a hockey series. These things can flip on a dime.
Of course.
So I'm not discouraged about it. Like, would you think they were going to sweep them?
Right.
Like,
No,
what planet are you on? Like, that's a better team with a really good goaltender. You got to test him more than that. I don't care how you figure out how. Like, they can play this low event stuff all they want. If they're not going to test a high end top 5 goaltender, good luck winning. Good luck.
I would like to see. I mean, this isn't like the desperation by any means, but I would like to see.
This series doesn't start till game 3, in my opinion.
I would like to see Strome and Lapierre paired together. They're both centers, but Strome can pop over to the wing. That's going to be what I'm going to watch for, because when does Carberry get desperate enough to finally just go put all the youth on the same line? Like, I'm waiting for that to happen here, because putting McMichael with Ovechkin, for instance, McMichael's literally waiting for him sometimes for breaking out in the rush, and then when they have to go get the puck, I mean, he's the guy to go try and do it, and it's just I'm waiting for him. I'm waiting for the, like, here's all the eggs on one basket on one line, because I think it's the only really way you can do this. I would like to see in the third period a little bit more of that, of like, hey, group all the young guys together, and every other shift you guys are out there, because it's not going to work if you're down 3-1 and then putting the same lines out there. And granted, he did the line blender in the third a little bit, but you know, when Alexi Protas is leading your team in shots, you're not having a good day, especially with the names they have. Like, I'm with you too. Lapierre, it sucks, because at the end of the season, he was doing the same thing. He was getting these chances and not finishing them. And so it's carrying over here a little bit. He just needs to get one, and I think the floodgates might open, and that's maybe try to get him going a little bit. But with the guys they have going and what they did yesterday, I was a little disappointed on just throughout the lineup. But I get it. They're not amazingly good at scoring, but you know, guys who went through hot streaks during the season, like Milano, who showed he has like these amazing hands. He kind of disappeared yesterday. Like, they're not going to win if these guys disappear.
He had one where he had a clear shot and gave up on it.
Yes, exactly.
And was looking to pass, and I was like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, they hit him in a perfect spot, side of the net, not even a sharp angle, and he didn't shoot.
Yeah.
And he was looking to pass, and I'm like, oh God. Like, you need to be empowered to shoot, man.
Correct.
Like, you can't be looking for Ovechkin every time you get the puck or whatever it is. Like, that's not the way this is going to work.
That's what's really funny. It's like, Protas, I commend you for shooting it, but like, you're the last guy we need to make 6 shots, essentially. Right. We need everyone else to be shooting it too. Yeah. So
I'm not discouraged. It was game 1. Yeah. And I thought, like, all in all, except for a short period of time, they were fine, and they were kind of right with them. And the last goal, I'm not even bothered with, because they, in a tight game, they wouldn't allow things like that to happen. They'd keep playing the structure that they were playing. They had to take some chances, but even then, it showed you when they try to take some chances, they're not fast enough. This is why they have to bog it down a little bit. So, I'm not totally discouraged, but it wasn't a good start, obviously.
No, of course. Yeah. And what I think sucks the most is I could live with it today if they had 30 shots on net and Shesterkin stood on his head for most of the game. The fact is we didn't even really see Shesterkin. They got like 20 shots on him, and I bet you 10 of those were from far out from either Carlson or Protas letting it go from way too far anyway.
He made a couple decent saves. That's really it.
Yeah.
He didn't
was nothing
steal any
special.
goals from him.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
He didn't do it. He had too easy of a day.
Yeah.
And so they've got to get some better chances. And if they're going to get 3 power plays in a period and walk out with nothing, they're going to lose.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, I don't expect them to generate that, but they got it because the referees were weird in the first period and they didn't take advantage of it. So a lot of this is on them. I do think that, like, they do have a complaint about 2 goals on 2 very marginal plays that probably the second one for sure should have been called back, and they didn't get it. So you put a bug in the ear of the referees, whoever's calling the game tomorrow night, that, like, that can't happen again.
The one thing I will say off of the result yesterday is if Iorio is hurt, they're in a weird situation because their decor's already decimated, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, like, the fact that Sandin and Jensen didn't play,
right?
This is the playoffs. These guys play with everything. That's not good.
Right.
Like, that doesn't suggest that they're coming back anytime
Correct.
soon.
Yes, exactly.
That's not good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they were out there again today in non-contact uniforms, so they can skate, but what does that mean? I don't know. Because they could be skating to literally be tricking the Rangers, too. They were practicing in New Jersey today. So,
let's see. Caps are off tonight. They get tomorrow night in New York. Tonight, we've got Boston, who's up 1-0 on Toronto.
All the home teams won. No.
and they handled Toronto. And so I'm sure those people are freaking out because they know that they've got to score 4 or 5 goals. And I'm sure they'll have a game like that, but I'm sure they're freaking a little bit because game 1 was exactly what they didn't want to see. They couldn't score.
There's this clip. Did you see the clip of the Blue Jays game in San Diego?
No.
Did you see this? It was so good. There's a guy sitting there in a Maple Leafs jersey, and then like the score goes to 4-0, and the guy throws a Blue Jay shirt over his Maple Leaf sweater.
Smart.
While the announcers are like, it's 4-0 Toronto or Boston.
Let's see. Carolina's up 1-0 on the Islanders. Kuzi scored.
Number 1 star. Here's the number 1
Kuzi
star.
scored.
Did you hear his post-game interview or see the quotes? He got like introspective. They were asking him like, hey, like, this is a good performance by you in 2018. You had a really good performance that carried the Caps. And he was like, oh, that was a million years ago. Like, I'm just trying to make another push, take it day by day. I'm preparing for retirement. Like, said that.
Oh.
And like said it semi-seriously. So people were kind of like, not imminent, I would assume. But even
not tomorrow.
Right. But he was kind of like putting out there like this is the last hurrah for him. So, I mean, he even said, I guess, they were like, hey, Kuzi, you going to score today? And he's like, yeah, let me get the crowd going. Like, that was him kind of calling his shot before the game, too. So
I think, like, they caught the Islanders who got real hot at the end of the year. I think it's a bad matchup.
They can't score.
No, they can't.
Islanders can never score.
So I like Carolina in that series. And honestly, if Toronto gets taken out, I think you're going to really like Carolina to get to the Cup.
Yep.
Like, they're the ones that went all in and got Kuzi and got Gensel. And so they're kind of primed and ready to do this anyway.
Yep.
And I think this is a good matchup for them. They caught the kind of a low event hockey team, and it's going to be hard for them to beat a team with that much offensive power now. So if they get through and somehow Boston does take Toronto out, Carolina is going to feel like a favorite to me moving forward. And then tonight we have 2 series that haven't even started yet. Golden Knights, Dallas, Kings, Edmonton. And so I guess we'll just see how those start.
Yep.
There was a crazy game in Winnipeg yesterday.
It was awesome.
It was 3-3 after 1.
It was fantastic.
And then Winnipeg held on. They were up 7-4 and held on to win 7-6. And Colorado was just peppering them.
Yep.
So I watched towards the end of it because the score was so crazy. And I'm like, this is gonna be a wild series. I don't think Winnipeg's gonna end up winning that series.
Oh no,
I really don't think so.
I don't know if you know if they mentioned this at the end of the broadcast. I wasn't watching with sound, but Colorado is the best offensive team in the league. Winnipeg is the best defensive team in the league. They aren't scoring 7 goals every game.
No, they're not.
Like they held on for dear life.
That was a fluke.
I mean, granted, they are the home. They have home ice advantage.
Yeah.
So if they win their home games, they're fine. But I can't see Colorado folding.
I also thought it was weird. They do the whiteout, and their team wore the blue jerseys.
Oh, they've always done that though. They've always done weird. Whiteout. Yeah, Pittsburgh used to do the same thing. Pittsburgh used to do the whiteout, and they'd wear the black jerseys at home.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I agree.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's been a gripe for me for like 10, 15 years at this point. Yeah,
that was strange.
Yeah,
All right, take a quick break. We'll do the NBA playoffs next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Hi, everyone. I like Blondie. Hi, everyone.
Probably does. I mean, who doesn't like Blondie?
Let's do the NBA playoffs now. Let's see. As predicted, Boston had no problem in their game one against the Heat because Jimmy Butler isn't playing. So that was a bye either way.
Yeah.
Heat or Bulls.
The fact that they got through, by the way, was like, oh, God, you guys are going to get crushed.
Yeah. Or it's very telling about the Bulls.
Yeah.
You know, their best player isn't playing, and all you have to do is beat them one time.
Nope. Couldn't do it.
Can't do that. So that's not a surprise. Let's see. The Clippers beat Dallas, and Kawhi didn't play, and Harden was real good, which I don't trust will
that
last.
happen I was like, will that happen for 7 games?
No
Don't
way.
think so.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe for a series. At some point, he'll get bored.
Right.
Now, when will that happen? I don't know. And what's the club scene in Dallas these days? I don't know.
Probably good.
Probably good. Probably pretty good. Cubes ought to line that up for them. Figure that one out.
Cubes.
Let's see. So Harden was really good. Clippers win. That series, again, like the other ones, it doesn't get started until game 3.
That's right.
It doesn't get started. I still am. I don't buy, especially with Kawhi out for however long it's going to be, I don't buy them beating Dallas, actually, without him.
Right.
So, I expect Dallas to figure it out. Just one game. Milwaukee crushed Indiana without Giannis. What is that?
So same thing. I wasn't really watching that one. And then, of course, Twitter just starts of like, Dame has 20, the Pacers have 9. Yeah. It's going to be one of those nights. And I was like, oh, God, he's unleashed now.
He was sad face about being in Milwaukee the whole year. But then the playoffs rolled around and he went, you know what? It's Dame time.
Right. Correct.
And
it's like, this is why they trade for you.
And this is right. And this is why Portland, for years without a second star, was really good because he has games where he blows teams out by himself and he becomes unguardable.
Right.
So will that last? They
couldn't guard him, so I mean
they couldn't guard him. But Indiana couldn't score.
Right.
That's not their problem. So I think this series, either this stage is too big and they're being exposed, or they had a bad game one. And without Giannis out there, I figure this to be a very, very close series. And I kind of expect Indiana to win it without Giannis, especially with what's been going on with Milwaukee all year.
Yeah.
Tell the whole story. But we'll see, I guess. Milwaukee's been around the block. Dame's been around the block, and Dame was the best player on the court by far.
Of course.
Not close. And Indiana looked not ready for primetime.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oklahoma City beat New Orleans barely. Low-scoring game. Top heavy. Their 3 top stars took a bazillion shots. They won a game that didn't get into the hundreds.
Yep.
That's probably a pretty good sign actually for them. I have a hard time with New Orleans seeing them win this series, but OKC is new to all of this with this group. This is their first go around with this group, and as a 1 seed, there's a lot of pressure on them, to like get through. So these games, New Orleans has been in the playoffs a couple times, so this is not like new territory for them. But I assume that OKC's got a little too much for them and will beat them. That's what I think. And that was a good sign that they won a low-scoring game like that.
The fact that there was no Zion and they still kind of weathered that storm, it's a good sign because they're going to win at the end anyways.
The Cavaliers blew out the Magic in the series nobody cares about.
Can't play the song now.
Can't play the song. God. The only thing I like about it now is you can play the song when they win. This is not
83 points.
83.
What are we doing?
Right. And this is another one where I'm like, this one doesn't start in game 3. I got a hard time buying. They got a couple superstars on Cleveland.
Right.
So I got a hard time buying. Going in, I was like, if Cleveland's not locked in, I suppose it could be a series. But I don't expect much here. I expect Cleveland to get through.
Not in the same light.
And that's a bad start for their first go with their new group. This is the first go for like Indiana and like OKC. This is the first go for them.
Yeah.
And Orlando's not a high caliber team. So, I expect Cleveland to get through.
Not in the same light as Dame, but Donovan Mitchell, when the playoffs start too, becomes this different kind of animal. And so he dropped 30 on them when they only scored 97. I mean, yes.
All these sports,
good luck with that.
All these sports are different in the playoffs than they are in the regular season, but nothing is more obviously different than the NBA.
Yeah, correct. Yep, exactly.
Because I'm of the impression that up until the All-Star break, they don't care at all.
Yeah.
And then even after the All-Star break, they kind of care. Like the games got interesting.
You can tell what teams all of a sudden are like, crap, we got to win like 5 or 6 games here to get into the thing. So they start playing.
The Lakers woke up late in the
Dallas
season.
Woke up too.
All of a sudden, Denver, who was just kind of middling a little bit, like hit the gas a little bit.
Suns were on a play-in spot. I mean,
Suns woke up, and now they're all like, okay, now it's fun.
Right.
Now they want to try.
Exactly.
So that's all that happened there. Let's see. The Nuggets did beat the Lakers. They'll play them again tonight. This is another one I would still say, while I think the Nuggets are prohibitive favorites, with LeBron and the way he scored in the first half the other night, let's get to game 3 and see how that goes. I don't think this is going to be easy by any stretch. I think the Nuggets are a way better team, but I don't put anything past LeBron or AD.
No, of course.
And that game was pretty close the other night for a while before the Nuggets kind of pulled away. And Jokic is unguardable.
Right, correct.
By anybody.
Yep.
Completely unguardable. So we'll see tonight with them. And then the other two that were, I think, what are going to be the fun series, Embiid had a scare of all scares.
Yeah.
So he threw a pass to himself off the backboard, dunked it, then landed funny.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know what was going on because his eyes were making kind of weird looks. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
So when they showed the close-up of him on the ground, it was obviously a knee injury. He tweaked his knee and stayed down and went to the locker room. But when they did the close-ups of him, he looked like he'd been concussed.
Huh.
His eyes were kind of rolling around a little oddly, and I'm like, oh no. So when I was waiting for the replay was he hit his head, but he didn't. And he just, I don't know.
I see the clip now.
It was really strange. He had the he doesn't look right eyes. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, that's really bad if that's the case. Turns out he was okay enough to come back out there. Knicks won anyway. I don't think he's in good enough shape to carry them. So I think the Knicks are going to win this series. It appears that it's going to head that way, that they're going to win this series because he has to be great and consistent, and I just don't know that he's up to the task to do it. I know everyone's getting on him today, and I'm like, do you realize how injured he was? And then he came back and got himself to the point to play here, but he's not in the type of shape that he wants to be, and you saw this at the end of the year with him when he played those last couple of games. So, and Madison Square Garden's the best venue in the NBA, and they're going bing bong crazy in there. So I think the Knicks probably end up winning in 5 or 6. I actually think is what's going to end up happening here.
This is Sean Barnard. He's a Sixers insider with a couple of different companies, it looks like. He's got 6,000 followers. He said, not to be Mr. Conspiracy Theory, but Embiid left game 1 in sunglasses and then had them on at shoot-around today.
I'm telling you. If you saw the clips of him.
That was him at the shoot-around today wearing sunglasses inside.
Yeah. I mean, what does that mean? It suggests head injury. But you can't accuse of that. But I will tell you, when I saw the replays, I went, uh-oh, that looks like head injury. And I expected to see when he fell that he hit his head on the court, but he didn't. So I'm not sure what's going on there, and it is worth monitoring. All in all, he doesn't look like himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a bad knee injury. He came back. He's playing with it. He's doing what he does, but I don't think you're getting the best of him. And if they don't have the best of him, you're counting on Maxey and Oubre carrying them.
Yeah.
And while I don't think the Knicks are some great shakes, I have a hard time buying they're going to beat them, especially in that atmosphere where that is a real home court advantage.
Sure.
It's obvious.
Sure, yeah.
And it's the most fun NBA venue when they're good. So that wasn't good. And then the other one is, it looks like Ant Edwards is emerging as the best player in the game.
You're right. Yes.
And you find out now, is he really the best player in the game? And I know he's had a great regular season and he's been really good and he's been emerging. But you find out now who the best player in the game is. And him trash-talking Durant after shaking him and shooting over him and then just literally getting up in his face means he knows that he's the best player in the game. So honestly, if he's going to be the best player in the game with the height that they have, it's hard not to picture them getting to the finals, actually.
No, I
I think it's them in Denver at this point with not knowing how good high-end OKC is. Because I think they're the open question here. Because it's their first go. They go in as a 1 seed, partially because they probably cared and the other teams didn't for a long period of time. And all the teams with the aging stars are locked in now. And so we're going to find out, how good is Shea in a situation like this? How good is Holmgren in a situation like this? We know what Durant, Booker, maybe Beal could be. We know what Ant, but we saw what Ant can be. He took over. And that's what the best player in the game does. And he was clowning them in the third quarter the other day. And if that's what it's going to be, and they're going to just erased Phoenix without much of a problem. Well, then they can erase anybody.
Right.
So they're the scary team in the West if Edwards is going to be this throughout the course of the playoffs.
This is also your answer, by the way. Like, not to do a victory lap of, here's Brad as the third option.
Yeah.
And
he's a no-show, too.
No-show. It tells you
he probably
all
doesn't
you
even
need
know what
to-
his role is
tells
in a
you
situation
all
like
you
this.
need to know.
Well, because when the game's on the line, they're going to go to Booker and Durant.
Yes, correct. Exactly. But
Like, he'll get an open look if he gets an open look, but they're not putting the ball in his hands to
right.
like take over. He's
Right.
the third wheel.
Right. It's like, here it is.
And he was a no-show third wheel in game one.
Exactly. Like, this told you everything you needed to know. Like, even when John Wall was the captain of this team, there's a reason why Brad wasn't scoring 40, you know? Like, it was those were legitimate teams, and he wasn't he was the second option most of those years, but still, it tells you everything you know with him being in the West.
So let's see. Tonight, Orlando-Cleveland, game 2. Cleveland up 1-0. If Orlando can't crack 90, they can't win. So
Somebody said start that at 6:30, so like I can eat dinner while the first half's going
start
on.
it now. Just start it now.
Start it at
Just get it
6:30,
over
so then
with.
Knicks Sixers is starting when it's over.
So we don't
essentially.
even have to cut in for game
That's
breaks
right.
to tell us that Cleveland's up 12. I don't even care. Philly-Knicks game 2. Embiid is big time in question here.
Right.
And we'll be watching early. If he doesn't look like himself, they're done. If he does, and he's fine, which I have a hard time believing he's fine, then maybe this will end up being the series that I thought it would be going in. But if he's too marginalized, forget it.
Yep.
So the Knicks, I expect to win that series, and because they're at home, I would expect them to win tonight. And the good one is Lakers-Denver tonight. Mm-hmm. That game was close.
Yep.
Lakers are up at half. The game was close. LeBron lit them up in the first half. LeBron obviously is capable of who knows what. Denver's the better team for sure, so far deeper. And Jokic is the unguardable player of the NBA right now. But I bet this is going to be an interesting one. I don't see LeBron just going out with a whimper.
Right.
So this is the one where I think this series starts tonight, actually. Let's see what the Lakers do, how close they... If this is a nail biter, even if they lose, then it's on. And if Denver controls them, then in all likelihood they'll end up winning in 5. But that's going to be the one to watch out. The other two I'm not so sure, but this one tonight's going to be the one to watch.
Only because I have the schedule up for the entire week up here. Did you know Friday Bucks Pacers is at 5:30?
Good. That's another one. Let's
That's
move
actually
on, guys.
genius by the NBA for a Friday to just get out in front of it. Happy hour, 5:30, then Clippers Mavs at 8, and then Timberwolves Suns at 10. That's a nice little Friday starting off at 5:30.
I think Aaron Rodgers used to go all those Bucks games. He should go sit courtside in an Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark jersey. That's what I think he ought to do.
Actually, pretty fun.
That'd be pretty good. He could sit there with Mallory. He's still with her, right?
No
Who
idea.
knows?
No idea.
Oh, who knows? We don't know.
We don't know
actually.
about that. Yeah.
We don't know about that. We know about some of the other things he believes these days.
Something about him wearing a jersey that says Fever on it just doesn't.
That's actually pretty good.
Doesn't ring great for me. That's all.
How's he
That's all
feel
I'll
about
say.
their sponsor? It's not a medicinal corporation, is it? It's not a pharmaceutical?
I think so.
I don't think it's Salesforce, maybe. Is he okay with that? I don't know. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Did you see we have the latest release of a uniform? The Broncos happened today.
Yeah, There's a ton of uniform leaks, by the way, that have happened over the last week.
The Jets did it. Jets
did
look
it.
good. Lions did it. I didn't love it, but it was fine.
They're back to looking more classic. Did you also
Yeah.
hear the bet that happened with that uniform too?
No.
They're back wearing black uniforms again with the blue numbers.
Yeah, I don't love that for them, but whatever.
I think they're badass, especially now that they can wear a black helmet. That looks real badass.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, your boy Dan Campbell went to whoever their chief of marketing said and says, I want the black jerseys back. And he said, win the division and I'll bring them back for you. So they won the division. They brought him back this year. So
Okay.
I thought that was good. There's a story behind it. Like
All
those,
right.
those kind of become your rallying jerseys a little bit. So.
Yeah, Dan Campbell could have put him in a chokehold, too, if he wanted to. They're like, that's what we're doing.
Bring back the black jerseys or else.
Did you hear me? I'll fight you in a landfill. Let's see. So I saw the Broncos ones today. They did a very cool video.
Yeah, I
like
saw
a
the video.
really
Yeah.
cool video.
Yeah.
Pat Surtain is driving down the streets of Denver, walks into like some store, finds an old schooly looking Broncos jersey with his name on it, and then like looks out in the back and they show an old school Ford Bronco.
Yep.
And so they're bringing back the old D blue helmet,
Sure.
which is amazing,
Right.
which should be their look in perpetuity.
So this is the problem
Yeah.
here. They did a refresh too of their normal uniforms.
Yes.
Those blow. Like,
right. They're not better.
My first thought was, wait a minute, you guys are doing a refresh because your old uniforms look like that weird early 2000s with a flying logo. And I'm going, this looks more of the same.
It is.
How come we can't figure this out? Wear the throwbacks full time, then make a newish looking alternate. I feel like everyone has this really confused these days.
Go back to that old school look.
Ask the
that
Jets
helmet's
about that.
amazing.
The Jets did the same thing.
The helmet with the D and the Bronco in the middle of it is
the best
amazing.
one. It's the best one.
Go back to it.
And with the Jets figured this out. They did the weird refresh a couple years ago, then just went back to the stripes on the sleeves, back to normal this year.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to figure this out. Go simple for your everyday jerseys, and then have the weird alternate to wear once or twice a year.
And I love the 80s Jets helmet.
Yes.
It's great.
100%.
It's great.
Wait, did you see the Giants leak of their jersey?
I wasn't sure that was real. And if it is.
The stripe, yeah.
They look stupid.
So, because what it is, it's not their 100th anniversary. It's their 100th season. So they're wearing like this throwback
like
of
1942,
1934.
Oh God,
So
it's terrible. It's like when Pittsburgh did the Bumblebees, and it's like as a one-off, fine, but it's not good, guys.
For our listeners, compare it to the Packers throwback, where it was that weird circle in the middle, but then they wore like tan pants and a bright colored helmet. That's what the Giants are wearing.
It's really stupid looking. It's bad.
Everyone looks stupid in the 30s, though. So
the Giants, like the Jets, ought to go back to that 80s look. I say this every year.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Correct.
With that block Giants written across the helmet. They're very sleek jerseys. Even the white ones look good.
Yep,
Like they
I
should
agree.
go back to that full time. They look good. That's
I
their
agree.
look.
I
They
agree.
look good in that.
But yeah, the Broncos underwhelmed. The throwbacks are great. Don't get me wrong, but the
throwbacks,
rest of it,
that should be their full-time jersey again because they're amazing looking.
Yeah.
They're amazing looking. I didn't talk about this last week. It was like every day I meant to bring this up, and I never really did, and I can't believe I didn't bring it up. But I have a moment here before I've been delaying getting into Jayden Daniels land, which the whole weekend was so many texts with people about Topgolf and his agents and his PR people, and what does it mean? And it just, oh my God, I'm so sick of it. I can't wait for it to be over.
if I'm Topgolf, I'm running some promotion Thursday night.
Yeah. Topgolf.
You and 10 of your friends, half price or something.
Yeah.
Everyone's entered for a rookie quarterback jersey. I like that.
Topgolf, where you find out if you are the man.
That's right.
Let's see. So I meant to talk about this. Deion Sanders has said a couple of things in and around the draft. One that pertains to us specifically, and another pertaining to the draft in general that I thought were extremely newsworthy. That didn't quite get the amount of play that I thought that they would, especially locally. On the larger issue of the draft, did you hear him say that he knows that the NFL purposefully puts out narratives about certain players in the hopes of kind of directing where some of these players end up going? And he described it as, I was with NFL media, for a long time, and I know this, and described it as fact, that it's the league that is behind some of these narratives that get put out about prospects, almost trying to spook certain teams to not take certain players and hoping they end up in other places. And he wasn't specific about anybody in particular this time, but he was like, that's just the God's honest truth. And I can't believe that.
Right. I mean, he did work for NFL Network, so
I understand why the teams do it to one another.
Yeah, sure,
I understand that because they're like the Raiders clearly want Jayden Daniels.
Right.
They're hoping everybody hates him.
They threw their pass up last week. Yeah.
Yes, they want everybody to hate him.
Yeah.
But if they were picking fifth, it might work. But because where they're picking, they're not going to get him, and everyone knows this. Like even if the Commanders do go, oh, he doesn't like Topgolf, fine, we'll take JJ. Well, they're still not getting him.
Right.
New England is, or Minnesota is, or someone else is. They're not getting him. So, do you believe him? I don't. Gotta have a hard time believing the league goes out of its way to try to trash certain players to make it so that they end up in other places.
The problem is if he was ESPN or if he was Fox Sports or some other entity, but the fact that he was NFL Network has to give you some kind of pause. And I'm not saying it's Raj calling him up and going, hey, Deion, I need you to say this.
No. I don't think he'd want him to say something like that.
Correct. So I'm always intrigued by the order of operations when people say this. Is it because a producer is handed something? Is it because in a room they're handed something? I'm not trying to discount Deion here, but it is the NFL Network, so you don't know how the process works. I have a hard time thinking it affects anything, but who knows?
Who knows? Now, the other one that he said that I was surprised got very little play around here was he's already decided that certain players on his team, his son specifically, sons, and Travis Hunter, who's the two-way player who was having a Heisman-esque type year until he got hurt last year. But if he comes back and has a really good year, is probably going to be a very high draft pick, probably as a corner, but is going to be a very high draft pick. He said, I've already decided they're only going to one of 6 teams. And the Commanders were one of them.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
He named the Commanders, he named the Cowboys, the Eagles, and I can't remember the others, which I thought was really interesting. He named 3 NFC East teams.
Interesting.
But he already said, I already told them, and we're making this clear, that my guys aren't going anywhere. They're going where I want them to go. And, we're going to pick a quarterback, so that's going to take his son off the board for coming here. But, we kind of need a corner. And if this guy is what I think he's going to be or looked like he was going to, remember the early season, the stats he was posting both ways were unbelievable.
Yeah.
If he ends up being the top corner, he's saying, he's only going where I tell him he's going to go. And we're fortunately to be in Deion's good graces somehow.
My question is why?
I don't know.
There is a lot of, say what you want. They've made all the right moves since Dan sold, on paper. But there's nothing that screams stable operation yet here. I'm just saying, how or why are we in his good graces? Is that
I don't know.
Or him and Magic Boys?
I understand Dallas.
Is it him and Magic? Maybe.
I understand Dallas probably has a really good relationship with Jerry. Yeah. And Dallas is a big brand. Right. I understand the Eagles on some level, I guess, because they've been winning a lot.
Right. And Howie, I've said this, Howie, I think, is the best executive in the league, honestly.
So I buy that, but why here, I don't know. And there were 3 other teams that he named. I can't remember which ones they were, but he basically said there's 6 teams. That's it.
Eagles, Niners, Cowboys, Ravens, Falcons, Commanders. So they're all his former teams there.
That's true.
They're all the former
Not
teams.
the Eagles.
Not the Eagles, but
he
all the
didn't
other
play for
ones.
The Eagles. He played for all the
other ones, though.
So he knows them.
So he must know their operations.
Yeah, but he played for the Commanders. The Commanders are not the team he played for anymore. The Commanders are completely top to bottom different. There's not a single person in the building that was here when he was here. Granted, it was a long time ago when he was here, but literally there's nobody in the building.
Obviously was a star for the Niners and the Cowboys, played here, then played with the Ravens after he retired and then unretired.
Right.
Falcons, of course, as we
just
said,
team.
original team. And the Eagles, the funny is, I think it's more funny the Eagles are thrown in there because he didn't play for him. But
those are the
interesting.
6 he said.
Interesting.
And the only other thing to watch with him is, a ton of his players went into the portal.
Yep.
And one of them said publicly, I want to play for a real program, not one that's looking for clicks. So let's see what happens here with Deion year 2, because he will have a couple of high-end players, including his son, who's the quarterback, and this guy, Travis Hunter, who might be, it's trending towards going to be one of the high picks of the draft.
I think it was also his both, because he has 2 kids there, correct?
Yes.
Both kids,
I think the other one's a safety, if I remember right.
They both, made people's eyes kind of go up or ears go up a little bit because they both put on Instagram, offensive players tap in with me, defensive players tap in with me, looking to come there. And people were kind of this transfer portal thing, yes, you can kind of open it up but when you have your kids putting out there, DM me if you want to come here.
Right.
It's and
he's doing it from the Maybach.
Right. Yes, right. So it's a little, everyone's kind of we get it, but come on, man.
He
a
was
little bit better way to do this.
Obviously an incredible story a year ago, but if they're, what are they in? The Big 12 now? They're in the Big 12 now, right?
Yeah.
I think so, right? Because the Pac-12 disappeared. I think they're part of the Big 12 now. So, good luck.
Yeah, they're yes.
Let's see. Okay.
We'll
see how year 2 Deion goes up in Boulder. That's going to be an interesting one. I'll take that Travis Hunter guy,
of course.
by the way.
Yeah. No, I'll happily.
We need him, thanks.
I'm glad we're in his good graces.
Yeah, thank you. Please send him along. I'd love to have him.
See, maybe this is the Commanders, They're putting the feelers out there behind the scenes to make sure they're in everyone's good graces.
Maybe. All right, let's do Jayden's World next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. We got to score more goals, Joe. Joe.
Did you watch Monumental or did you watch ESPN?
Monumental.
Okay.
I don't tune out of Joe B. A. Locker.
Okay.
Given the choice, I'll always watch Joe B.
Okay. No, it's one of those. It always throws me off because you see the thing and it's it's on ESPN. You're like, no, it's not. I'd rather watch.
Not today, boys.
Rather watch my guys.
Yeah,
if I
watch
could,
my guys.
If I could watch.
Yes. So, I did the Monumental broadcast yesterday because I like Joe B and Locker. I want to hear what they had to say. And smoke it out, baby.
Smoking out.
Let's see. Let's do Jayden's Land. All right, first off.
Jayden's Land.
Let's do first, we have news. Drake May speaks to Kevin Clark for his show, This Is Football, which is an ESPN Omaha production. Kevin Clark, of course, hosts a very popular podcast. He got Drake May on it. You'll have noticed all of the big draft picks are suddenly doing interviews. Caleb Williams did one with Ryan Clark. Jayden Daniels did one with Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco last night, which was a nothing burger. Like, clearly they were told not to ask him about the Top Golf thing. I don't know how it wouldn't have come up, but it didn't.
Yep.
But Drake May was asked about it because he was there.
That's right.
And here was his response to Kevin Clark about this visit last week.
How did you view the Commander's Top Golf? That whole thing.
I actually thought it was one of the cooler visits I've been on. I think we always kind of these different places you go and see, kind of a steak dinner spot, and just you're surrounded with the head coach and GM and quarterback coaches, and then the Commanders took an approach of all of us being together and seeing how we interact, and getting a chance to swing the golf club a little bit. I enjoyed it. Be around the other guys. Got to meet a lot of different guys throughout the process, and a lot of guys I saw in high school recruiting. I remember Marius Mims. I tried to get him committed to Alabama when I was committed there in high school. Again, full circle. I know JJ well, and seeing Jayden and those guys was I think it was a really cool experience for me. I think we all got our separate time with the coaches when we need to. It's not like we didn't do any of that. But Topgolf was just a way for us to get out and do something fun the evening before. So,
were you the best golfer there?
I like to say I was. I think I had the best swing, so I think I was hitting it pretty good. So, but JJ McCarthy was hitting it well as well. Yeah,
okay, good.
Paul was hitting it well. The Iowa tight end, he was hitting it pretty good. So,
but you thought it was just a good, different experience to kind of meet the guys.
Yeah, something that they changed it up. I thought it was pretty sweet.
Okay. So maybe Jayden was upset because he's not good at golf. Maybe we found that out. Maybe that's why he's upset.
Maybe. Yeah, he wasn't mentioned there. That's actually, he wasn't a standout.
No. Apparently JJ's got a good swing. This tight end from Iowa that apparently has been rising up the draft boards for the Commanders as well. I didn't know golf mattered that much to them, but apparently it does a little bit. So they had an opportunity. And this is the attitude I think all of us expected in hearing this. Yeah, it was different. It might have been a little unusual, but are you seriously complaining about going to Topgolf with a bunch of your contemporaries? How could that be that big of a deal to you?
Right.
And to him, it wasn't. And you'll notice, because Michael Penix was there too, Penix's agent, JJ's agent, Drake May's agent didn't say anything or co-sign tweets from Florio complaining that this was how it went down.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So most everybody thought it was fine.
Correct.
Maybe they didn't love playing Angry Birds Topgolf. Maybe they didn't love the wings. Who knows?
What I was going to say is Drake actually said exactly what I was putting out there on my show last week, where I was going, I bet you some of these guys love this because how many steak dinners can you have in the last month here, right? Like how many Ruth's Chris can you go to in every single city? Like I'm sure some of those guys were like, oh, hell yeah. Like this is, I want to do this. And like also there's something to be said when you are the 21, 22, 23-year-old in the room of 50-year-olds. That's exhausting every night.
And they're peppering you with questions.
Right.
And they're asking you, they're like,
you have to stay enthusiastic about the whole thing, even though this is the 16th time you've, talked about your first job at high school. Like,
hey, you like calamari? Do you like calamari? Hey, what do you think about the single high safety? And how you're going to deal with it? It's after a while, it's probably like, guys, let's just get to know each other. And that's all that they did. And the weirdest part is, this seemed unusual to me too, but as it turns out, a lot of teams do things like this. It just didn't typically involve quarterbacks, which is why, I don't know why it ruffled Florio's feathers so much, but it did.
Right.
And which seems to me that the agents said something to him about how it ruffled their feathers, i.e. co-signing tweets about it. And then Schefter, he admitted that they were not that camp, the Jayden Daniels camp, didn't love it.
Yeah, correct.
Didn't love it.
And it happened, like the McAfee clip is really what put it over on Friday, too, of him saying all that.
Okay, so Drake May was fine with it. I don't know if that matters in terms of who you pick. J.J. McCarthy was fine with it. I don't know if it matters with who you pick. Right. I don't think we're taking Michael Penix. I don't think at number 2, and we're not moving out of number 2. So for the purpose of this conversation, we'll ignore his feelings about all of this. The 3 who are in line to potentially be the second overall pick, and McCarthy is right there with May. Just put your comments in wherever you want with that, because I know how that's going to land if that's the way.
Can I say this? I'll say this to you what I said off the air. I think Jayden is the slam dunk pick everyone will be happy with.
Yeah.
I think May, for me personally, is the fine whatever. But if
I think the May one will be, I've heard about him for months, and I'll trust Peters and company that they pick the guy.
But I'd rather them take JJ over May to get the chaos. Is what I'm rooting
You want
for.
the chaos?
Yes, correct. If you're gonna go for it.
I talked to Keim about this on the show last week, and I talked about it with a lot of people over the weekend. And I don't know this group well enough to know whether perception matters to them. I think that they were a bit surprised at the reaction to the hiring of Dan Quinn. A bit. Okay. And, because I think they thought, like, guys, when you realize what his reputation is, and if you actually go look back at his record in Atlanta, and you're going to hear from all these people, and all of them are saying all the people in the league are saying this is a home run hire. Like, I think you'll come around to, I know it's not the guy you thought we were going to get, but we got a really good coach. You just have to trust us on all of this. And people came around to it, but those first few days were not pretty on Twitter.
Correct, yeah.
They really weren't.
Really, it was the Ben Johnson fallout, not so much the Quinn hire, I think.
Because I think people were like, oh, he didn't want to come here, and that's a knock on the organization.
Right, it was, Dan Quinn is their second choice.
Right.
That's what the narrative became.
Right. So in this case, we've been primed for Jayden or Drake for months. The McCarthy hype started to pick up a little late.
Right.
I mean, even though they won the national championship, nobody left that going. Like, I left last year and I went, CJ Stroud made himself a lot of money. Yeah. And I think everybody could just see it because of what he did in the playoff. Like, if you hadn't seen a lot of him, he showed you everything you need to know. Well, even in Michigan winning, I don't think people walked out of there going, oh, man, you can't miss on McCarthy.
Right.
Everybody was like, that's just a really good team who's really well coached with a really good defense, with a great running game, and that guy's there, Brock Purdy.
Right.
Was kind of how everybody acted about it. And you don't pick Brock Purdy with the second overall pick. You luck into him later in the draft. And I think that's where everybody was. And then Harbaugh said he's a great quarterback. And then all the scouts started to quietly say, I do buy this. And he's 100% going to go in the first round now, and probably in the top 10 to somebody, whether it's New England, Minnesota, I don't know. Somebody's going to take him high. I think Minnesota's going to move up probably to do something. So we'll have to see where he ends up going. But with Jayden, like, now things have started to, and I expected this over the weekend, his people were going to have to say something and it's their own fault.
Yep.
They let it get out that a combination of them didn't love Topgolf.
Yep.
Wanted more one-on-one time. Thought that's not how you treat a high-caliber quarterback. And I don't think they realized that the way it was going to land made him out to be a diva.
Correct.
And I think they realized that very quickly. And then a lot of people were going, you haven't played a play in this league yet. There's been plenty of quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, who just got traded today, who's a number 2 overall pick, or Trey Lance, who doesn't make it to a second contract, who's a number 3 overall pick, who, oh, by the way, they didn't actually turn into great players immediately. So teams are taking a chance on you as much as you're taking a chance on them.
Well, and the other part was the narrative started to become, oh, well, how do you know the Commanders weren't always going to pick Jayden, but they wanted to test him? Like, that's how the narratives went crazy.
Okay.
But what I'm saying
I want to get to that. I read, and I'll read this. Go ahead.
What I'm getting at, though, is because they didn't say anything, everyone ran wild with these narratives. And that's where we were at by midday Sunday, I think, is where that really started to come out. Maybe Saturday, maybe midday Saturday is what I'm thinking of. But we started getting these insane theories of, oh, well, the Commanders always wanted to pick Jayden. They wanted to see how he was going to react to it. And it's poorly now. And I kind of thought, there's no way that's the case. Like, there's no way, right?
I don't think so. But right? I do want to read this because I thought this was interesting. So this guy, Professor Harvey on Twitter, he is an author of a book called Questioning Leadership. Mm-hmm. And he's an associate professor at the Washington College and a professor of leadership studies, and clearly is a Commanders fan because he's weighing in on this and tagging people in media here. So he's clearly a Commanders fan. Got it. And he wrote this. This is what he wrote. And I'll hear him out because he studies this stuff.
Yep.
And he said, Topgolf was all about Daniels. And he goes, Here are the thoughts on this. He goes, thoughts on the Commanders' Topgolf Gambit. It's an innovative exercise designed to work just once. It created unique stress for a tranche of top-tier quarterbacks in a way they cannot have anticipated. Next year, agents will push back against any team that tries a similar move. If the Commanders end up bypassing Daniels in the draft due to culture concerns, then the Topgolf Gambit will have amply served its purpose. But there's a risk here. If the Commanders decide to draft Daniels after all, this may leave him with lingering bitterness and mistrust, with repercussions that may take years to fully appreciate. It would be ironic if a clever move ends up being slightly too clever. I have a hard time buying that they went to this degree to see how he would react to this. I really don't think that I do think that this was a case study in studying all of them.
Right.
But not just him he's trying to put this is on Jayden. Let's stick him in this and see how he reacts to it.
Right.
I think that they were just trying to do a new, innovative, fun way to put these guys together and see how they interact with one another.
Sure.
With not putting him as the test subject to see what he would do. Mm-hmm. But that's what this guy put out there. And he went on to say these things about it. He said, the Commanders knew there would be pushback or backlash. More importantly, they knew the top-ranked quarterback prospect, Daniels, was likely to perceive it as disrespectful. I don't know why they would perceive... Why would he think that the Commanders thought that they would be putting him in a disrespectful part? I think that's a stretch.
Well, because if he thought it was a one-on-one thing the whole time, and then they tell him in the car, oh, by the way, you're going to be with all the other prospects at the same time, I could see why.
He said, since he would perceive it as disrespectful, they did it anyway. Why? For one reason only, and it was all about testing Daniels, whose character they must have doubts about. See, I think that's going a little too far. I really don't think that they pulled an evil genius social experiment.
Did you see
to find out if Jayden Daniels is of the makeup that they want of somebody to be the franchise quarterback? If that is the case, and they did find out that he's not cut and able to deal with basically anything that would be abnormal, then I guess it served its purpose. But I don't buy that they went out of their way to do that purposefully. I think that they just held a group event. They did have alone time with all the players anyway. It's not like they hadn't met with Jayden before. They did.
Yeah.
So I just think that they were like, let's have some fun. Let's stick them out there and let's see what happens. And it is observable to see how all of these guys interact. It was a top 30 visit with a lot of players, including a lot of guys at different positions. You know they have a lot of picks.
Right.
Like this tight end getting along with everybody or this tackle getting along with everybody, that might just help them make a decision about them moving forward. I really don't think this was a social experiment to test specifically Daniels, which is what this person is trying to say happened here.
Did you then also see the comparison of the Heisman jackets? Did you see that one too?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Not to say I'm buying into that by any means, but I think what's happening here is people are trying to nitpick Jayden into oblivion and seeing, I think maybe what I've gathered from it, at least off of the weekend, is I think maybe the Commanders wanted to see a little bit more from him from a leadership point, but it doesn't mean that totally botched him out of the second pick is what I'm getting at here. I think they were trying to see, let's see how everyone reacts. And if he was the only one to react that way, well, that's on him and his agent. And it wasn't him, by the way. It was his agent. It's worth saying that, too. It's not, like Jayden didn't come out and say he didn't like
this
that.
Also, and this is important to point out, this also does fall in line. When Adam Peters showed up, a number of the things that he talked about was building through the draft, building chemistry, getting to know players, people who fit in. This all matters, right? Dan Quinn, all he has said about coaching, and he had a really good quote over the weekend. I think it was in Albert Breer, where he was like, if everything is surface level and you don't know these guys, then the coaching is going to be surface level. My goal is to get to know them and coach them on a deeper level. The hope is we build a team where everybody in the room plays for one another, cares for one another, holds each other accountable, has some fun doing it along the way. Yeah. But we're a team. That's the object here. And Quinn has been successful in generating those type of mentalities, at least on the defensive side of the ball. It's all you hear about the players who formerly played for him. Bobby Wagner played his entire career on the West Coast. When they signed him, I was surprised, mainly because I'm like, I don't think he's just going to come here. Like, he hasn't lived on the East Coast. Like, why would he do that? He probably has offers to stay out there, and he did anyway. And what was the first thing he said? I want to play for him because I like him, and I like how he coaches us, and I like how he holds us accountable, and I like... So they put a bunch of guys in a situation and said... It's just fun, too. It's not like it wasn't a serious competitive situation. They're playing at Topgolf, eating wings, ordering appetizers, playing Angry Birds. Like, I mean, like, you know, but it is a viewpoint into, do you get along with other people?
That's right.
Because you're going to walk into a room and you don't know anybody, and we're asking you, are you a guy who's willing to be a team player who can have fun in these situations? And I said this last week. I'm like, if he's upset about this, is he going to be upset about movie night?
Right.
Does he want his locker in a certain place? Mm-hmm. Does he want to be treated differently than everybody else? Because it appears that that's not what they want to happen here.
Yeah, right. They like disrupting all of that. Yeah.
They want to disrupt that. They want everybody to be part of the team. And no matter what, this quarterback, whoever they select, is going to be a special because he's the quarterback who's the number 2 overall pick of a landmark franchise. And everybody's going to be watching him. And it's true, there's more pressure on that person. Mm-hmm. This was a symbol of, to me, initially, this, and this is why I wanted to wait and see how his camp handled it once it got out there that he was upset about it. Like, this is the least of his problems once he becomes the number 2 overall pick and an NFL quarterback or a first-round pick for anybody. Like, you don't think everything you do and say is going to be scrutinized from here forward? It is.
Right.
Everything you do. You're a franchise quarterback and a high draft pick. Literally everything you do is going to be scrutinized, discussed, and you're not going to like everything that happens. How are you going to handle it? And to me, it was like, I don't want to assign this to him. Maybe his agent just said something a little offhanded that he shouldn't have. But if he truly was upset about this, boy, you don't even know what's coming down the road.
Right, right.
Like it's not going to get easier than it's not going to get any easier than a Topgolf night.
How fast can I get a photoshopped Angry Bird of Jayden printed for Thursday?
So, in the meantime, he had his PR person put out a very bland statement saying he's prepared to go wherever he's drafted.
That's right. It was the equivalent to the Caleb, I want to go number 1, and what did he say? I'm not going to push my narrative, or I wanted to agenda. Wasn't it?
No matter what my agenda is or what my feelings are, I want to go number 1.
It was this very, like, I wouldn't even call it backhanded, but this very much like, yeah, it's fine.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't an endorsement, but it was, I'm not going to not play for you.
Correct.
Essentially what it was.
And that's what this was too. And in Jayden's case, like, I don't think he should have said, I'm willing to go to Washington, because that's presumptuous.
That's right. Yeah,
so
totally.
So I understand that he's not going to specifically say I don't have a problem with them personally. Yeah. So I think that while the wording of it still was vague,
right,
at least I think he dispelled, or at least tried to dispel, no matter how he feels about it, gee, I'd like to go to the Raiders.
Right.
I'm aware that's not going to happen, and I'm very happy playing for whoever selects me, especially if it's the team with the number 2 overall pick. I'm going to reiterate this. I do not know who they're going to pick. They have been beyond tight-lipped about it. I would hint more. You know me. Yep. I would hint more if I knew. I don't. I don't know what they're going to do. It is still very up in the air to me about which direction they're going to go. But after this weekend, hearing what I heard, seeing how the wind is blowing, I do expect them to take him, because this is a blip on the radar that doesn't really mean anything. I think he learned a very quick lesson, or at least his representatives did, about maybe where you should kind of stay out of something and not cause more problems for your client than is necessary. He could not like the Topgolf thing. You don't need to publicize that.
Right.
That it's unnecessary. And if you really think about it, really was it a big deal? It isn't. So are you going to make a big deal out of everything that is a big deal, or are you going to make a big deal out of literally everything? Because this was nothing. This is a molehill of the mountains that are about to come. It is still my opinion that it's going to be too hard to turn him down. He's too good of a talent. He's got too much of a ceiling. He keeps getting better. All these people who sit there and say, well, maybe he's maxed out. What are you talking about? He's gotten better each and every year. His completion percentage continues to go up. The competition he goes against has gotten better through the years. He keeps getting better. I'm not turning that down. Plus, he has some athletic gifts that the others don't. So I don't know how they're going to turn it down. That said, I don't know what they're going to do. And I'm falling in line because what I keep hearing, I think they will go JJ if they don't go in his direction.
Yeah.
That's what I think they're going to do now. I think it's going to be McCarthy over May. I still think Daniels is their pick.
We're at that point. I'm not laughing at the organization. I'm just laughing that I can't believe we got to this point.
I am too. I am surprised we're at this point. And I think part of it is the May part that is real, which is he may have a really high ceiling, but the idea of taking someone who's just not ready to go day one is kind of not in line with what I think they're going to do.
Sure.
I think they're going to take somebody who's more inclined to play quickly, McCarthy or Daniels. And I, in the end, have a hard time just watching the tape going, how are you going to not select him? Like, he's just too good of a prospect. But we don't know what's happened over the last few days.
Right.
All that we've had is the wind of, I want to try to dictate, things that I like or don't like. Well, that's just not going to work for you. Caleb Williams learned this, and things have gotten really quiet on that front. There is absolutely no question who the number one pick is going to be, even if he doesn't want to go there.
That's right.
And he's living with it. Jayden Daniels, I think, found out the hard way that the NFL's bigger than him.
Right.
And that he may love Antonio Pierce, and that's fine. And he may like the idea of playing in Vegas, and that's fine. But they don't have the second overall pick, third overall pick. In fact, they don't have a top 10 pick. The chances of him manufacturing and making that happen are slim to none.
That's right.
Whether it's Washington selecting him or not. And so the reality is setting in. This is where you're going to go. You need to come around to it. And, oh, by the way, we have a really good coaching staff with a new ownership group with good weapons that he called dogs last night. The one thing he said, and I still think 3 days away, that's going to be the pick, but I don't know.
But by the way, and I would just add in one more, with a fan base that if you are any level of successful, will have your back for literally years and years, because go look at what's happened with RG3. For some reason, people still love that dude off of one season.
They have
one season off of that.
The revisionist history on him
is so ridiculous.
Is amazing.
So, dude, you play one good season. Apparently, we talk about you going into the Ring of Fame.
That's right.
So
it's amazing.
I'm just saying the fan base will eventually side with you.
That's the other thing I would say to him going into this. I don't think you understand how much on your side we are going to be.
That's right.
So whatever issue you have, we'll never take you to golf events ever again. Promise.
Can't wait till he's doing commercials for them.
Oh, that actually be really
Because I think
funny.
I think they should, honestly.
That would be really funny. I mean, honestly, Topgolf, if they're not having draft events this week.
That's what I'm saying.
If they're not doing it.
I'm sure it's probably a big money night regardless, so there's probably not specials. But if they're not trying to talk to his agent right now.
I think just go look at the reception Adam Peters got.
Yeah.
Just go look and look at what this fan base wants. Trust me, Jayden, if you do get selected here, nobody's going to care about your feelings about Topgolf. They're going to be so behind you, wanting you to be great. I think you're going to be overwhelmed with the support here. And hopefully, whatever reservations you have or whatever dreams that aren't going to come true here to play for Antonio Pierce in Vegas, because they're just not. Even if we bypassed you, you're not going to end up there. Come around and you'll see. Because we're starving for you to come here and be great, and that's what we want.
Right.
And hopefully that message will get through to him by Thursday. And if he does it, go to that party on Saturday and go see.
That's right. Yeah.
Because if we do select you, go to it.
Yeah.
And you'll see what everybody is hoping and waiting for and embodying you and want to be behind you. And so I think this will all be a whole lot of nothing, and we'll make fun of them for Topgolf forever.
I will be there not as media, but as a fan. I'm going to the draft.
You're going to go?
I'm going to go to the draft day party. So
I don't think I'm going, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
I've got the invite as the old season ticket holder email. So
Okay.
figure why not?
Why not?
Ye old Caps aren't playing that.
We'll
night,
see
so.
if the quarterback shows up there.
I think got to put the phone out for that, right? And film the reaction.
Yes. Film the
In case
reaction.
it's not Jayden Daniels.
Oh,
see
I
what
don't.
that reaction
Don't
is.
send it to me. You know what? Everybody will come around. Even if if
I know.
it's JJ McCarthy, there will be shock. And then everybody will come around to, well, he's our guy.
When he's missing
That's it.
12-yard darts, is Scott allowed to ask him questions on camera without being yelled at by the organization?
Jaden or JJ?
JJ.
Ooh. Sure. Scott is not allowed to come to OTAs. We're going to send him video of practice, just in case. Just in case.
Will the team president come out and say something?
I hope not.